legislative work is done during committees. It's a very false argument entirely.
It sounds like a class essentially. One person speaking and one person sitting on the audience. I know we're going all over the place, and I forgot actually some things that were mentioned initially. But the independents, there are more independents than the ones who have recently been made independent. And again, for better or worse, the independents in the dog are perhaps not, at least to a person, the ideal for anyone in this debate either way. But I think it's important to just, because I had forgotten to say, that a lot of the things that we're concerned about not having a second look at legislation and so on, the whole point of unicameral is that you build that in. And you may not buy Community Gale's proposals, which, by the way, could only have been made in light of what happens with the Shannon. I mean, you can't, okay, let me back up. Community Gale has proposed to adopt a different legislative process in the hopes, of course, that Shannon is no longer around. But because it's more cumbersome, it makes no sense for it to be around with the Shannon. You can't have both. So there's no sense in making all reforms in the hopes one day of having a Shannon, but in the meantime having one. You can't do it. That would blow up in your face. You had to know the outcome, or at least be near the outcome of the debate about whether it should be abolished or not, so that you can do something about it. So there are, in fact, different checks built into the system. Now, you may not think they're sufficient, that's a different argument. But they're built in. The Shannon's disappearance does nothing to that reason. There also are the reforms are modest. And the reforms, and they're proposals right now by and large. There are some real changes, but they're proposals. I think it can matter a great deal, obviously, if they don't follow through. And I do believe that, either way, to be honest, whether the Shannon's abolished or not, we'll have to move on dog reform because they've already put that out there. They've already made a stab at it. But I do think that even the modest reforms that have been suggested are meaningful. The idea, for example, of having I can't remember the phrase, but to have a committee look at a bill before it, in fact, is technically a bill, is terribly important. It's one of the ways in which our sister parliamentary democracies around Europe actually have a consensual process of lawmaking in which the opposition matters. I mean, I don't remember the details of the way in which the committees are put together. It may well be that the government decides who chairs them. That's hardly surprising. They won the election. That's the way it ought to be. But there is a system in which the seats are assigned based on parliamentary representation. So the party can't simply load each committee. These are meaningful. They may not be enough. I don't believe they're enough. But they shouldn't be dismissed. And then, sorry, the first government to do anything like that, as long as I remember.
Yeah, no, Larry, wants to.
Okay. I just want to make 4 points, and I'll make them as quickly as I possibly can. In terms of reform and political reform and governments allegedly being serious about reform at this stage, let's remember again what they said in 2011, Democratic Revolution, that they would use the guillotine sparingly. Their own body witness said that they've been deplorable in the front. They've used the guillotine time and time again. There's absolutely no reason to believe that they're serious now. Second point is that a number of times people begin to think about bicameralism in democracy. I'm willing to make the comparison in the United States for a variety of reasons, but I take the points that people have made about the weaknesses and deficiencies of American democracy. But in many ways, I view as kind of reasonable comparators U.S. states with this jurisdiction in the I suppose the system of federalism, although European and American federalism are quite different. However, if you look at U.S. states, there is exactly one unicameral legislature in the whole country. There are dozens of states. I like the example of Wyoming. All the commentators say that bicameralism is only for divided societies that are large and federal. Well, I look at Wyoming, which is less than 1 million people and 96% white, yet they have bicameralism. Again, that doesn't look good data. I just want to make a comparison that serves land, because I think the other side makes comparisons that serve their own ends. I think Ireland is its own jurisdiction, and we should do what's best for this country, not necessarily for what's done elsewhere. The third point, and this is really to do with this idea that a renewed or reformed Shannon is going to become this kind of block, or going to become this check and balance a la the United States Senate, or that's one point. The second is that it's going to be duplicative of withdrawal. I don't think it's going to, it's not spelled out that it's going to have the sort of powers that an upper house would be to dominate or to be equal with Delaware. So I don't see that as a point. In terms of duplicative of withdrawal, let's look, okay, at what the constituencies, what they call constituencies, and the type of people they draw to politics and the people who they elect. Okay, people, and we had a number of speakers who regarded to local concerns and all that sort of thing. The measures proposed in Shannon reform will ensure national elections receipts. People who are going to be drawn into political life, who otherwise cannot get into political life now, and these are people who I think who have a lot to contribute. I think one of the speakers mentioned people from disadvantaged and marginalized groups. I think they're one group. I think people with national profile on a variety of different issues. They will be the people who can sit and they will provide that very necessary second opinion, which I think serves democracy well. I think deliberative, thoughtful democracy works. I don't know why we're always chasing efficiency. And with respect, democracy is not a business. It's not meant to be. Governance is not meant to be a business. Deliberative democracy works, and I believe democracies in the world reflect that. The fourth point, I just want to close, it's just this idea of, again, what we'll wind up with if we abolish the Shannon. I know the Shannon as it is a toothless tiger going to take full on the criticisms that there are. What we'll have is what I call the snapshot mandate. And this is, we've seen people utilize this to already, where based on what the voters do on one day, in early 2011, it's taken then that the voters who vote for Fidel, who voted for Fidel 9 times out of 10 because of anger at the previous government, at the misdeeds of the Fidel government, that they went through that manifesto and they wanted every single thing in there was what they wanted. And the government proceeds on that basis. It doesn't take account of changing times, doesn't take account of changing moods, changing opinions, etc. It just, what the government will be able to do without a sham, without a check, is to ram everything through, just as it was in the manifesto, without discussion, without debate, without a second opinion. I think that's very worrying for democracy, very worrying for the democratic process. It fundamentally doesn't reflect reality, the reality that we know in those human beings.
Okay, I know there were two questions on this side, so I'll take maybe Mark and you're satisfied with that section. So, Mark.
I think my question was more or less answered. I was going to ask about, well, first of all, if the Seanad is abolished, do you think that the Dáil will have any material political gain from that? And if they do, does it not make more sense to reform the Dáil first and then subsequently abolish the Seanad?
Is that what you thought was answered, though?
Yeah, I think you made some comments on that about the current reform of the Dáil.
Others can disagree, but I think if you're going to make reforms, and you intend there to be one chamber, you have to do it in the order that was done. I mean, there could have been announced something a little earlier. People were, better informed as we got to the referendum. There are ways to debate that. You can't initiate unicameral reforms in a bicameral system. Because, first of all, it won't work, and obviously you'll lose any sort of credibility you might have anyway if the government has it. When the referendum actually occurs.
But if the Seanad has no real power, why can't you reform the Dáil as a current?
You can, but it depends on what you mean. I mean, the important things that, to my mind, are things like the lawmaking process and the committee system and those sorts of things. And you can't do that. You can't really do that until you know the fate of the Seanad, whether it stays or not. I mean, obviously, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board with respect to all reform if the Seanad remains. I guess you could come up with two different plans, but all that seems to be counterproductive. You have to make the plans in light of what you expect or hope will happen with abolition. I think, as a practical matter, I didn't see any way around that. Again, whether you're for or against it.
Yeah, okay, other questions?